Hi everybody, I'm Akal Sahai with Be the Lighthouse, and some of you know I love freeform storytelling. So today we're going to read something that began as just that, as a story I made up with Padam Nams, and we had a lot of fun with this. Anyway, it's a story about a fictitious Sikh. It's part of the Shadow Dance, which is part of a time travel series. It doesn't bear any relation really to the overall story. It's just this fun story that's in the novel. Anyway, so we're going to read that today. And it's called The Ballad of Jum Punder Singh. Rather than diddle with the trials and tribulations of being born, growing pains, growing up, etc., Jum Punder Singh coalesced into being in full form, fully grown, because he could. Possessed of sharp, striking features, rapier-like wit, radiance brighter than any sun, and the most powerful of voices, kings and queens alike came to bask in his most commanding of presences. Who's to say what Jum Punder was or where he came from, but he most certainly was a manifestation of the divine itself. Tales abound of this most amazing of all men and his myriad of quirky habits. Case in point, he had neither car nor driver, yet he always arrived at the appointed hour in the precise location you were to meet him. He would simply state, "I just got here," because he had. His method of arrival, however, forever remained a mystery. Jum Punder Singh was forever misplacing his very distinctive water bottle, perpetually asking after it as he was. We typically attributed it to his being so blissed out after reading from the Siddha Guru Granth Sahib, the sacred text of the Sikhs, but this hardly seems possible given that he was so calm and even-keeled that one never saw him breathe. Jum Punder Singh would inquire after the aforementioned missing water bottle, turn around, and it would magically appear, forever full. Whether it was but a single bottle or scores will forever remain a mystery. What is probably even more amazing is the fact that he never slept, ever. Even his sister, who kept his house, would comment at great length that he was up and about at all hours of the night. All I know is he would sit in his chair but a few moments, close his eyes, and then get up again just as suddenly and resume his activities. A still greater mystery was his source of income, as he was never known to have any jobs nor accounts, yet he was possessed of the most beautifully appointed and yet humble of homes, in addition to always being attired not just as a Sikh of the Guru, but one who was to read from the Guru at the holiest of Sikh sites, the Golden Temple in Amritsar. Furthermore, he was never caught in the act of dressing. He would always simply appear as previously detailed. His students were legion, always following behind him as he walked the streets offering blessings. The students offered food to the masses, yet where had it come from? Oh, his sister prepared the food, to be sure, but how had it arrived at their humble abode? One of the nigh infinite mysteries attributed to Jum Punder Singh. I was blessed to have met him once. He said, "No!" in the most booming of voices. The entirety of my being vibrated with that of the infinite itself. I recall neither the question nor the conundrum, only the perpetual vibration of the very universe. It stays with me to this day. I recall neither the day nor the time, let alone the year of said meeting. On the other hand, it seems to have been yesterday. On the other, lifetimes ago. He vanished as suddenly as he arrived, without warning nor note. His sister and several of their students also vanished. The stories, of course, persist. One of my favorites is of his golden touch. His home, and particularly the meditation room, were always filled with the most exotic of plants, which defied classification by the most learned of biologists. Oh, how I vividly recall the glorious taste of what we simply referred to as Jum Punder Singh's cookies. His sister described them thusly, as then did we in turn. I tell this because they tasted of sunshine, exploding into your being as you snacked upon them, and yet who baked them? No one ever saw them being prepared. I could tell the stories all night long. One time, no, he always moved as if being propelled by some unseen device, as his feet never moved, yet his body did, perhaps by sheer force of will alone. His sister once smiled upon me. I slept for 3 days, wherein I can only explain it as I lived with God. My absence was never commented upon, nor was the experience ever repeated. I vividly recall how time itself seemed to stop as he corrected someone. Jum Punder Singh would spread his arms wide, clap his hands together sharply, and it was as if the entirety of creation would pause, as if taking the deepest of exhales. After his, shall we say, commentary on their transgressions, a cosmic inhale issued forth and time resumed its normal flow. Who's to say what became of them? All I know is that they lived for a time and touched all of our lives immeasurably. Signed, a most honored student of Jum Punder Singh. The most beautiful of music filled the most blessed home of Jum Punder Singh. No source of the music could ever be found, yet the sacred sounds and vibrations echo throughout the hall of God's devotee. Were the golden inlaid doors ever to permit you entry, you will be eternally blessed. Said massive door, however, is a fickle one, only permitting entry to those it deems worthy. Worse more, it appears random, often repeatedly denying me entry before finally permitting me to pass beneath the golden arches of his sacred domain. Signed, a most humbled student of Jum Punder Singh. The stories pour in, as did my beloved teacher, devotee of the light. It was said he stepped from the river of light and into our lives, but does it really matter anyway? Of course not. It's obviously far more important that he did than his origins. Signed, a student. I vividly recall the story a beggar told me. Born blind and deaf, he lived on a street corner subsisting on alms until the hem of Jum Punder Singh's attire brushed his feet in passing. Not only was the man completely healed, but he had also inexplicably learned to both read and write. I cannot count the times Jum Punder Singh would have a need. He would shout, "Waheguru!" The entire procession would abruptly turn a corner in the street, and whatever he had been in need of was always right there on that street. How could I possibly be making this up? What genius could ever craft such a tale? Surely not even a master storyteller could weave such a story. And yet what evidence remains? We attempted to take countless photographs of him, but nary a one showed his likeness. Only a bright white light appeared in place of him. The painter does not exist which can accurately capture his likeness. Thus we scoured the land for the finest artisans to carve his image upon the largest slab of marble we could acquire. They were dispatched to the site, yet they reported the marble was inexplicably already carved when they had arrived. Bowing before the nigh-glowing carving is said to have resulted in innumerable miracles. At times his left eye weeps. Said tears are collected as they cure everything. I lost my cat, Mr. Snickles. As I prostrated myself before his likeness, I soon felt Mr. Snickles nuzzling my neck like he always does in the evening. Though you may not believe it, I met my wife at what we lovingly refer to as the carving. I bowed as per always and asked that I may have a wife. Nary a woman appeared, but rather the golden kata he always wore upon his right wrist, a kata being a special Sikh bracelet. When I picked it up, though, it transformed into a golden goddess who introduced herself as Angel. She simply said, "I came for you." We were married later that year. Our children shine brighter than any sun. He communicates with us still via gold leaf messages which appear before the carving. Mostly they are brief and nigh indecipherable until just before the event they foretell, when all becomes clear. I once recall being first in the procession. The throngs parted before Jum Punder Singh as a collective gasp came over the assembled, moving as they did, but not under their own power. Such events occurred so many times in his presence that I won't say it became ordinary, but things like this happen all the time, so much so that we all long since ceased being amazed at them and just surrendered to the glorious ride they took us on. "Waheguru!" he would exclaim, and off we would go, often hiking for days on end, with neither money nor provisions, yet food and water aplenty always appeared in the form of passerby in the remotest of forests we continually traversed as we spread the light. I recall not how many years or centuries we walked, only that we did, never aging in the process. I'll leave you with what I think is the single most remarkable story about this most extraordinary of men. He always walked in the shade, almost as if it moved for him. his 13th cousin Kralunder Singh and his uncle Hapover Singh eventually also joined us, but those are stories for another time. Anyway, I hope you enjoy that. You'll have a great day, and I will see you soon. Satnam.